Everybody, good evening. Thanks for joining us. My name is Matt with the MissionHub team, and I serve with the Crew DPS Department, Digital Products and Services. Thank you so much for spending some time this evening joining us. We're going to spend a few minutes together talking through three main things. The first thing is I will take some time to share a little bit about what we've learned working with MissionHub over the last couple of years, as we've done a lot of research, a lot of listening to users, a lot of going to campuses and countries to see how you are making disciples and how we could help. Then you'll hear from Alex, who's one of our product managers from MissionHub, and she's going to talk you through the core message, the core value of what MissionHub is, how it serves you as a follower of Jesus, making disciples where you live. And then we'll get to hear from Eric Barker, who's one of our lead designers. He's poured a lot of his heart and talent in the MissionHub and many, many other products. And you're going to get to hear him share a new feature that's coming to the mobile app that's called Communities that I think we believe is going to be exciting for you this fall. And then towards the end, you're going to get to hear from two of our engineers, David and Daniel Goers, who are going to talk a little bit about, as they put their hands to the code, what are they actually dreaming for when people use the thing that they're making. So thanks for joining us this evening. Let me get started. There's three things that we believe when we as the MissionHub team get to work every day on your behalf. If you think about your experience with Crew, there's probably a moment, like with me, where Crew provoked you or kind of pushed you into taking a step of faith. For me, it was in the basement of the student center of my university, Texas A&M, and the guy who was discipling me showed up, and we've been meeting every week at the same time, and he'd been listening to my stuff. And he said, hey, this week, I want you to get up and we're going to go talk to people. And I was like, no, we're not. You're going to talk to me, and we're just going to kind of sit here and do the same thing that we've been doing every week. He's like, no, it's totally going to be fine. Let's go talk to other people about Jesus. Let's just ask. And I was scared to death, honestly. And I tried every excuse I could think of to stall and not go. And he wouldn't hear it. He's like, we are going to go talk to people. And then afterwards, I'll listen to your stuff. We went out and I was shaking. I couldn't talk. He just said, listen to me, follow me, and let's go see what God will do. And that was a really powerful hour for me at the lunchtime, where I sat down with a stranger and got to hear her perspective on Jesus and where she was in her spiritual journey. And by the end of the time, I got to see God work and do something in that conversation. And then I realized I actually could trust God for these types of things. And that's what Crew does. It's kind of a value of Crew, faith. We are people of faith. We take steps of faith, and we try to help other people take those steps of faith because we believe something. We believe that when you take a step of faith, you will see God. You will see God work. And that's where we join him. And that's a powerful promise and a very bold promise that we've seen happen in our own lives, so it's easy to make that promise to somebody else. So MissionHub believes that outward faith is non-negotiable in a person's spiritual growth. And it's just something that Crew is. It's just something that Crew does all the time, and we want to represent that. The second thing that MissionHub believes, and I think you do too, is that every person matters. Every person matters. Now, that seems like obvious, right? So why are we even talking about it? But I want to get into a few slides as we've taken the time to go to different campuses, talk to lots of teams, even different countries around the world, and asking that question, how do you make disciples? We've heard and seen this tension of different ways in which we think about people. Now, Cojourners within Crew's campus ministry, really powerful material, lays it out in this way. There's kind of three modes of evangelism: relational mode, ministry mode, and what's called body mode. I'm just going to talk for a few minutes about the first two, relational mode and ministry mode, and how we've observed these two modes in action in your movements. So I'm going to talk through a few positives of relational mode. With relational mode, you're actually reaching out to the people that are already around you. You're already an insider, family, friends, neighbors, coworkers, whatever. It's the people, as God has placed you, that are around you. And so when you ask the question, who is my neighbor? It's actually kind of a literal answer, like it's the people like around you all the time. And so in relational mode, you're not limited to this geographic place, especially with technology. You can talk to anybody anywhere now, and it's through that network of relationships. The third is that as we help people understand how to be intentional and missional in the relationships around them, those types of experiences go with you for a lifetime. How to ask a question, how to listen well, how to be curious about other people, how to be sensitive to noticing when God is at work in somebody's life. Those are things you can apply anywhere and everywhere. Let's talk about ministry mode and some of the strengths of ministry mode. In ministry mode, we're actually thinking of that classic missionary type mindset of I'm going to go somewhere else. I'm going to go from being an insider to being an outsider on their behalf. And so I'm reaching outside of my natural relationships. I'm becoming uncomfortable for you on your behalf. So if you're a campus staff, you understand this because you are not a college student anymore, but you're going into that college setting for them on their behalf. Second thing is you're really reaching a specific target audience. Like you kind of draw a circle around a scope. Sometimes we've called it a target audience. And like, this is the place I'm committing to be intentional in reaching. It's not necessarily, it's one I'm choosing. It's not just what's kind of organically happening around me. The third is that ministry mode is really a great place to train other young followers of Jesus in how to do ministry. It's kind of safe, it's less risk. Because like with that girl at my school, I was never going to see her again. So if she thought I was weird or crazy or whatever, it's like, who cares? Bye. The ministry in terms of like one key, I won't say negative, there's a negative sign there, but I'd say like difficulty, and especially with relational mode, is that there's high relational risk to being intentional with those that you live around. And this is something we heard a lot and we hear a lot, and you probably feel a lot too. It's like it's something different to have that spiritual conversation with a family member, because you can't just leave the family. You can't just move out of the house. You can't just change jobs necessarily. You can't move somewhere else because all of a sudden it's become awkward. This is a really big barrier to being intentional in the place and with the people that God's put around us. Now for ministry mode, actually, I think the big negative that we've noticed is the style and tactics, methods and techniques that we use in ministry mode aren't really transferable as we move out into relational mode. And as students even graduate and move out into the rest of their life, it's not really conceivable to see them put up a folding table in the break room and add some solarium cards and like do survey cards. They could, some might, but that's not a transferable technique that we really even imagine them taking with them. And so we're caught in this conundrum of we have to act in ministry mode, but we want to train people and saturate them in this relational mode style. And there's some tension there. So how do we serve both of those as a product powerfully so that your movement is holistic and not just overweighted on one or the other? The third thing that we believe is that every step counts. Every step counts. In MissionHub, if you're familiar, and if not, you'll hear some more from Alex in just a second, that it's built along the stages of belief. And we believe that everybody is on a spiritual journey. Everybody's spiritual journey is unique. However, there are some key kind of thresholds or places in which people move through. And you'll see here, uninterested, curious, forgiven, growing, and guide. You could take 10 seconds and identify yourself where you are on that scale of belief. In terms of campus ministry or crew or power to change or tandem or agape, we tend to talk about recording, measuring, tracking, reporting some really key moments that happen. And if you look at our stats and reports, we tend to talk about 5 things. How many spiritual conversations do we have? How many conversations do we have to help people become curious about Jesus? How many gospel conversations did we have that actually gave somebody an opportunity to make a decision? How many moments where somebody actually made a decision? Let's count that. How many moments where we had a Holy Spirit conversation to help them grow and become more like Christ? And then how many discipleship conversations did we have? Those are kind of 5 major points in which we want to look at our ministry's fruitfulness. And they're very, very important. In fact, they signal often a person's major change into a new part of their spiritual journey. But if you go to Montreal and Quebec, if you go to the Northeast, if you go to Southern California, if you go to San Francisco, and you think about these 5 things, what we've noticed and observed is that these things don't happen as often as they maybe do in Texas or in Mississippi or in Missouri, where religion and Christianity is kind of a natural part of the cultural fabric. Instead, in some of the other places of the world, it's even antagonistic to Christianity. And so you can't really count these 5 things very often. So am I not doing anything? And that's where we believe that, with every step counts, there's actually within these stages a lot happening, and a lot that you are doing intentionally to follow Jesus and love them and be with them on their journey. Cru has never historically counted that. They haven't actually had a way. And so when MissionHub talks about steps of faith, when we say we want you to take a step of faith, we mean both those things above and things below. But we want to see it all. We want to celebrate it all. And we want to offer to God and say, wow, look at what you are doing through our simple acts of faith. Now, the next slide I'm going to show you is a review from a person called Staff Person 1, and they put an anonymous review on the Apple App Store for MissionHub. And I thought, I'll be honest, I wish the wording would have been a little bit different. I wish the tone would have been a little bit different. But what it does is it crystallizes the tension between relational mode and ministry mode very, very well. And we want to just be honest with that, because as a product, as we've tried to serve relational mode more, we understand that we haven't served ministry mode as powerfully as we could have. So here's the review. This new version is awful, and this was put last April. There's no way to record spiritual conversations, gospel presentations, etc. anymore. You used to be able to see what your stats were weekly and monthly. The fact that it's mandatory to put a random step of faith is really frustrating when you're using the app for stats and not to actually monitor your relationships. Pretty clear, pretty well said. Now, I will say, and you'll hear from Alex and Eric later, that actually the things that Staff Person 1 thought they could not do, they actually could do. They just weren't aware of it or didn't get far enough into the app to actually notice that. However, what I want to bring out is that tension. What does Staff Person 1 really want to do? They want to record stats. That's very valuable. It's important. It's valued by the ministry. Where is that valued is actually in the ministry mode as we're running the business of ministry and managing ministry. However, when our focus is only on ministry mode, we can tend to look at relational mode and just faithful steps with those that God has put around us as like frustrating or not valuable. Now, if you're an elite staff person, you're one of the most trained Christians in the whole world. In athletic terms, you're probably a triathlete in the equivalent. You are the equivalent of a triathlete in the kingdom of God. And so what you need is a triathlete versus the person who just needs to get off the couch, who just needs to walk around the block, who just needs to try to run a 5K is really, really different. And MissionHub actually doesn't want to just exist for the triathlete. We want to exist for any follower of Jesus to help them take that step of faith with where God has put them. Let me transition to Alex now, who's going to, actually, let's do one thing first. Sorry, I really want to transition to Alex because what she's going to share is really cool. In summary, how to bring relational mode and ministry mode together is really this idea of missional living. Missional living is living like Jesus by taking steps of faith to demonstrate and communicate the gospel in everyday life. And if you think about the students on your campus, in your movement, what you want to see happening really is this: wherever God has placed them, to saturate that place with the gospel, and also to be going outside, to be going beyond, to taking the gospel to where it's not, whether it's where they live, their campus, or even other countries and places. I want you to listen to a quick video, and the audio is going to be potentially a little interesting because I have to bring the mic over, but from a guy named Joe who stumbled upon MissionHub.
So I found out about MissionHub through coaching a friend of mine. and we were reading an article about being intentional in relationships and how powerful that can be for people. And they listed MissionHub as an app, as a tool that you could use for intentionality in relationships. So right there, we just downloaded it, opened it up, watched the video about how to use it, and the video made it seem so simple to take steps of faith with people. So simple that we laughed out loud about it. It's not that easy. Since I live in a townhouse community, I've got a lot of neighbors that I see every day and lots of opportunities to talk with them and get to know them better. And I thought I would just try using it within that sphere of relationships and see how it goes. And it has been transformative for me to, first of all, help me remember people's names, people that I care about. I want to know my neighbors better. I want to take steps towards them. And with MissionHub, it also helps me. It's been helping me keep my focus on my faith and getting to know them and seeing if I can be intentional in leading them a step closer to God, being intentional with the spiritual conversations as well. So it has been amazing with that for me. I've been able to keep track of things that people have shared with me, things I want to remember, to pray about for them. And it's been helping me even when I'm in the morning doing my time with God, praying. I open the app and I just go through my list of my neighbors and I pray for the specific things that I know are happening in their life that I've learned in conversation and kept track of there. And then as I follow up with them, it also brings depth to the friendship, knowing that I've been mindful with them, that I am still thinking about and caring about the things that they shared with me earlier. I hope that as other people use MissionHub, we will see people who are following Jesus really rising up and really demonstrating the care that God has for the world around us.
What I really like about Joe's video is that he moved into a new neighborhood and he was in ministry mode. But over time, it's shifted to relational mode. You heard him say friends, the friends in his neighborhood. And this is just a quote I want to reinforce. I hope that as other people use MissionHub, we will see people who are following Jesus really rising up and demonstrating the care that God has for the world around us. And that's the holistic view that MissionHub is taking, that we want to have with you. So not necessarily focusing on this slice of ministry mode that's very, very important, but expanding that to say, who is my neighbor? It's both the one I do know, literally my neighbor, and it's the one, anybody that God brings across my path. So I want to introduce Alex, who's one of the product managers, and she's going to walk through kind of 5 key points of MissionHub's value. And in the webinar, there's a way for you to ask a question. In a few minutes, we're going to pause and take any questions so you can log them there. Or if it's easier in the chat window, you can do that too.
Great. Hello. Hi. I think there's a handful of us on the call, so that's so fun to see you. Thanks for giving up your evening to be with us. And it's an honor for us to just share where we're at and really learn together and be together in this process. So the first thing we'll start with is the spiritual journey that Matt talked about previously. Like Matt said, we're all on a spiritual journey. We're all in a different space in that spiritual journey. We're probably in a different spot than when we started. And we all have people in our lives that are also in a different place. Family members, people that we see at the gym, or our neighbors, or anybody like that. And so these are the stages on that you show up in mobile, so you can swipe through and pick where your friend is, or where your student is, or where you have a new staff that's coming to join you, and you can put them on there, and then you can follow that journey together. So this is where we start in MissionHub to help you set you up to take the next best step with them is locating where you best think they are on their spiritual journey. And next is a set of relevant steps for you to take with this person. So in the slide previously, this person was curious. So the next set of steps that are offered to you are steps to take with someone who is curious. And that is the same pattern for every stage. So someone's uninterested, we've curated the steps to be relevant to someone who is uninterested. And same with guiding and growing. And those become a little bit different based on that journey. And we'll suggest some steps for you. If you don't know where to start and you're meeting someone new, here's a handful of things that we as a team and have come together to say, what would someone who is in this space in their world, in their life would take, and how do you do that together? And if they're not working for you, if you're like, man, I really want something special and intentional, or we have an event coming up and I want to invite Beth to this thing, then you can create your own, and that's awesome, because that's that journey, that relationship with you and that person. And we want that. We don't want to just say, do what we do, that's it. We want to come alongside you in the way that best works for you and what the Lord is prompting you in that relationship. So we have both. You can choose what we've offered, or you can choose one of your own. And what recently rolled out is a focus feature, focus your action. So like Joe was saying, in his neighborhood, he lives in a townhome community, so he probably has a lot of people around him, and that might be a lot of steps that he's accepted. So what we've done is really taken a focus, and the people that you really want to invest in this week, or the Lord is really putting on your heart in this specific week, to highlight those and to star them, as you can see in the image. And you just tap it and it highlights it, and we'll send you reminders on those. Hey, how is it going with Beth? Did you invite her to this thing, or have you been praying for her? You said you wanted to pray for her, so here's MissionHub coming alongside you to remind you and just check in and see how you're doing. So that's something that we found, even just as a team, as we were using it, we're just scrolling indefinitely to find this thing, and how do we make this better? We found a hole and we wanted to make it better. So this is what we've done, and then that way no one gets forgotten. Your people are cared for in the long run for a long time, and you have that continual front of mind with them in that relationship. And like I said earlier, it's a journey, right? Life is hard. People are hard. We get that. But the Lord is full of grace for us and for the people that we care about. So this is a journey, and we can see over time the development of this relationship. We can see that this person, you took a step of that with them, or they've changed from curious to forgiven, and we can celebrate that, and that's really exciting. And you can have just a sweet memory of what the Lord has prompted in this relationship, because you were brave enough to take a step of faith with that person that you care about, that whether you knew them or they were new to you, the Lord put them in your life, and this journey is unfolding. So it's just another way to remember how our lives look different, and our spaces and our stages of life are different, but we have this memory. And I think we each have those moments where we can remember and recall certain people who are pivotal in our spiritual growth and foundation. And this is here for us to see that in MissionHub for you. And the things that are really important to us, we love numbers, we love data. I'm sure you do too, but we really care about the story and what that looks like, and people around the world taking steps of faith. And we have impact, and it's an expected impact. Like, the Lord is moving, the Lord is doing things, so we should expect that people are getting to know him, or being growing in their relationship with him and others. And so we have this together, where it'll tell you this year this many people took this many steps with a bunch of people, which, I mean, this is really cool. We can see that and celebrate that together. So it's not, you don't feel isolated, you don't feel alone. Like, there are people around the world also taking steps of faith with the people in their lives, and we can see that together. And it also shows you people who have progressed from one stage to another based on the scale that we have within MissionHub. So it's just another way to be able to see what God is doing around the world through the app. And that's just really fun and exciting for us, and hopefully for you guys to be able to just see that the Lord is moving. And we know that in our stories, in our areas, in our cities, and in our towns, and in our campuses. It's really sweet to see that around the world, like, there are things happening. So we're excited about that. So we're going to take a moment, and if you have questions, put them in the chat or ask. I'm not sure how this works, but if you have questions, we'll answer them.
While we're giving you some time to put in some questions, what are we noticing in terms of you've had many thousands of people already using MissionHub and the stages and steps. What is the kind of distribution of where people are putting their friends? Are Christians mostly reaching out to other Christians on MissionHub, or what does that look like?
Yeah, well, and I guess surprisingly and not surprisingly, we have a lot of people within this curious and uninterested their friends are, which is really fun to realize that it's not just putting in other Christians and like, woohoo, we did it together, high five, but they're also reaching out in that way as well.
Yeah, that's great. What's one thing that maybe you think is most misunderstood with this core value?
It's an interesting question. I think for some it's missed. It's like the comment where I'm expecting something and I was made, oh no, I didn't know that this change happened. So maybe that's a misunderstanding. Maybe it's just didn't come front of mind, and that's okay. But that's why we're doing this together, to understand the holistic view and picture of what MissionHub can offer. Like-minded believers within campus, power to change, wherever you are in terms of an organized ministry, or even just within your church, your small group of friends, and beyond the campus life. So, but also for the campus life. So we're going to transfer now to Eric. There are no questions.
Hey guys, Eric Barker here. I lead the UX design team here at Crew, and really excited to start sharing with you something that many of you have been waiting anxiously for. And we've been very excited just going through and thinking about how to serve the students that are reaching out and asking questions and curious about who God is. And today we're also going to be, so one of the things we're going to dive into now is what we're calling ministry mode, which is inside the app you'll find it's actually under communities. And what's awesome about this, and we're super excited to share with you, is that what we're going to highlight today is that we can see each other in the community and celebrate each other as we move forward in the ministry. And so not only just celebrate each other, but also celebrate what God is doing through the steps of faith that we're taking together. And like Alex was saying earlier. So moving forward, one of the first things here that we're super excited to celebrate with you is that we have created inside of our ministry a way to see the activity going on in your ministry. So in this one place, when you come into the app, when you open up your ministry, you will see all the activity around taking steps of faith and completing interactions right there forefront when you come in the app. And so this is a great way for you to celebrate each other and to celebrate what God's doing within your team. And so one of the interactions here that you can actually do is, as you can go down through here, you can see what kind of a step of faith was completed and with what stage of a person that it was completed with, as well as interactions. But the awesome thing too is that you can celebrate these, hitting that heart there to throw up and celebrate the activity that's been going on in that ministry. And it also gives you a great gauge, a quick overview of activity that's going on in the ministry. So you can actually see who all of a sudden you might see in your team. What we're hoping to see is that your team members taking more and more steps and more interactions as they've come and started recording things inside of MissionHub. And that we can start seeing those activities increase and then celebrate God even more. The other thing that I think everyone's going to be super excited about is that it's a huge request for mobile. We are listening to you guys, and we're super excited. You know, we care deeply about, last fall, we had over 100,000 students that needed to be followed up with. And one of the things we're trying to do is bring that to mobile so that you guys can actually reach those students, find those students faster, and engage with them even quicker. And so in bringing that to mobile just opens that up even more for your team. And so with that, when you come into your ministry, one of the tabs, as you swipe across the top, after you've obviously seen the Celebrate feed, you can swipe over to surveys and see all of the active surveys that are going on right now in the ministry, and simply just tap on them. But what is even greater is that at a quick glance, you can actually see how many contacts are actually in that particular survey, and if there's any unassigned or uncontacted immediately in the red there, as you can see in that example. So you get a quick temperature on what is the state of this particular survey that went out. You know, how are we doing? What's the health of this? Are people following up? Are people assigning people? So yeah, super excited to see that. And as we dive in deeper, when you tap into this, you'll actually see the list of people that we are pre-filtering to actually take you right to the unassigned. So you can quickly find those that are kind of what we've heard in the field, hot leads, right? Just to be able to follow up and reach them just as fast. And so that's we're super excited about. Excited to see how you guys engage with that. Another thing too, just to give you a snapshot here of what happens. So if I go into a survey and I see an unassigned person, Anna Marie here, for example, you can actually get a quick glance of their spiritual journey, either whether it comes through from a survey or even certain notes along the way or assignments that have happened. So you can actually see a little bit of a history about this person, if there is one, so you can start seeing and understanding where they are. Simply all you have to do is want to follow up that person and assign them to you, just hit assign to me, and then that person now appears over in your people tab on the main screen, front and center. So you can start taking steps of faith and track along with their journey, that's when we start seeing and reflecting on what God is doing as we take steps of faith with him. The other thing we've done inside of this ministry mode is that we've able to capture an interaction quickly. And so while you're in this actual spiritual journey, as you've assigned the person to you and you start following that spiritual journey and taking steps of faith, right at the bottom of the screen, you can literally hit, just like a chat window, open it up, record an interaction, even record a note if you wanted to, and just hit save to the journey. And so this is just another way, simple way for us to start capturing these details and throwing them into the journey so you can come back and reflect on the conversations that they've had, the thoughtfulness. These are the things that we currently have inside of the web mode, but it hasn't been so, out in the open in the mobile mode. So we're super excited to have this built in. It has a bunch of similarities as far as the user experience for you guys that have been used to using the web mode, just adding those comments down at the bottom. And lastly, is we can see our impact as a team. So as we dive into each ministry, you can actually go in, get a quick glance of what's going on as far as how many people are being reached, how many in different spiritual stage, and all the spiritual interactions that are going on within that ministry team. And jumping between 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, and get a quick gauge on how healthy the ministry is going. And so super excited about kind of just seeing all of the stuff that we've heard from the field and then bringing that into reality into the mobile so that students and staff can really dive in and start engaging with those on their campus. Yeah, we just really can't wait to see the activity that's going on. And what's even better news, guys, is it's coming early August. We're ready to go for fall. Can we get a celebrate? So next we're going to get some questions. I see there, I love the little question icon. If you want to throw up some questions, looks like we have some that came up maybe from earlier, and we'll field those now, which would be great.
All right, so the first one from Sonia, we are planning to use MissionHub as a staff team this fall. That's great, glad to serve with you. We've used it some in the past, not effectively. Do you recommend archiving everything and starting over, or trying to clean up individual contacts? Excellent question. We're actually creating some landing pages on our website for people just like yourself that are kind of doing more of the administration and setting up of MissionHub, so that when the team and students come in It's pretty clean and simple for them to use. So we'll get you that link, and we're going to make that link available to everybody. But Alex, what would be your first thought on that?
I think my recommendation is if you take a glance at who is in that ministry on, I'm assuming, web or in your ministry as a whole in MissionHub, and you see that those people have graduated, no longer a part of your movement, I would recommend archiving and starting fresh. If you know the people that are coming back and returning, you can leave them in there, and that way you don't have to start all over with those people. But I would recommend archiving the people who you know are no longer coming back or part of the movement, and then going from there. But that would be a recommendation. That's a great thought, so that you're ready to go and it doesn't feel like you have to go through all these people and who are these people. I've never seen this name before, but that would be my recommendation, and we can help you if you like hit a bump along the way with that.
One of the things that we're trying to do with the mobile app this time, even if you don't do the full cleanup, is to put more time-based filters around the contacts list or the survey list, so that you can say, hey, just show me the last 30 days of people that have filled out the survey. Because we notice that campuses reuse the same survey year over year, and so they have really full buckets of people who have filled out the survey. So that's one way we're trying to make it a little bit simpler for the user to be able to filter and clarify what they care about without having to put a huge burden on you for administration. But look for that link, kind of walk through those steps, and you can always write support@missionhub.com, and we'd love to more personally help you think through that. Let's go to the next question by Abigail. Thank you, Abigail, for writing this. MissionHub in the app and MissionHub in the web are very different. Excellent observation. And you were correct. We'll see. Is there a way that we can access more through the app? I think you asked this question right as we were getting into some of the app features, so I'd be curious to hear what you think now. Yeah, we got another comment we'll come back to in a second. But what we're trying to do, one of the things that we heard, Abigail, when we researched 17 campus staff, students, volunteers from traditional, very different parts of the movement, all what they said was, we need to be able to trust MissionHub. It needs to be cohesive, it needs to make sense, and the data that we see is the data that we should expect. So we've been really working hard. In fact, you're going to hear from Daniel, one of our coders who cares passionately about quality code and a quality app because of this very thing, Abigail. So you specifically ask, I find I have to go back to my computer to add new movements or individuals. So there are definitely going to still be some things for more of the administration of the ministry that are going to exist on the web, like adding a new movement. Specifically adding new movements for Cru campus ministry even happens through the info base. So we're trying to even make that process a little bit simpler, but MissionHub is dependent upon other processes within the campus ministry to do some of those things. What we're trying to do is bring more of the, how do I do ministry on the mobile app, and some of the admin type stuff that happens once or twice a year, a couple times a year, will probably still stay on the web at this point. But we always want to hear from you in terms of ideas that you have to bring those more cohesive. Let's go to the third from Mike. What would you say is the greatest value add to a movement leader or team leader? Excellent question, and reason why we're having this this webinar really aimed towards team leaders. We've found in our research, and it's a little bit to that ministry mode, relational mode part. Movement leaders or team leaders are thinking broad scope. They have a much more complex situation. They're leading others, trying to help them lead others. And so you have multi-generational situations going on, hopefully happening in discipleship. So that gets complex for the leader. The thing that we hear often for the leader is, I need to be able to see. I need to be able to know what's going on. There's a stewardship of 100, 500, 1,000 contacts. And you know, and we know with you, these aren't contact cards. These are like people on a spiritual journey that potentially are inviting you to join them. So it's really important that we get this right. So for the team leader, movement leader, what we're trying to do, hopefully that you saw in this app stuff, is help you see and celebrate. And we're not talking about in terms of like recording or reporting. Those are more organizational and systematic. But seeing and celebrating is actually recognizing where God is working through the people that you're leading, and being able to come alongside them at the right time, encourage them, coach them, go with them, celebrate what God is doing through them. We feel like that is that powerful experience where movement actually starts happening. Like, wow, People are doing stuff in faith. Things are happening, and that's what we really hope that Celebrate feed starts to do, is it tells this rich story of us going out. And we don't have to come back and gather to actually tell the story. That story is just unfolding all the time. Let's go to the next one. Should marketing be focused more to the end user, students or volunteers, or do we need some way to get better buy-in with a team or movement leader? We're creating, how we're thinking about this in terms of serving you, is there's two really major audiences. The staff professional that's leading in a more complex ministry mode situation, and then there's that involved student or involved student leader they're the insider working through relational mode. So we're actually creating two different sets of web pages on our web page that speaks to those different audiences. We'll get those links to you. Be looking at the workplace feed for those links that will come. But really kind of speaking to the core value for those two different audiences, why it matters to you. But in the end, it's one whole vision of seeing a vibrant movement of followers of Jesus in a place. And that's the harmony in which we want to tell that story, knowing that the care about can be different. Let's go to another one from Abigail, and I'll have Alex answer this one. Do you have to have certain permissions in order to view what I think you're referencing, the communities feature on the mobile app, or can everyone view what is happening on the team?
So it would function.
You and Eric.
Yeah, we'll still come this way. So it'll function pretty similarly like it does now. So if you have any permission, user and admin, you'll be able to see. And so you'll still be able, if someone is a student and you've given them user permission, they'll still be able to assign people to themselves, see surveys. There will be some things that we've done where it's not full access, but you'll see someone had a spiritual conversation with a curious person. So it's less of the details, but you'll still be able to see the activity that's happening within that person who's a part of your movement has taken with someone. And that person may or may not be part of the movement specifically, which is also really cool. So you can still see what they're doing. But you'll still be able to see in and out. Eric's done a little bit more on the dev on this side. So
Yeah, so permission wise, anybody in the team will be able to see the activity in that feed and be able to encourage one another. There are some things that are behind what an admin would actually see a little bit differently, as far as like if there is some movement that's happened, assignment that has happened that has some explanation associated to it. We have to be careful with privacy and things like that within the app itself, since we're dealing with people. But yes, the awesome thing that we've been shooting for here is that we can, as a team, can see and encourage one another as we take steps of faith. And we want to continue carrying that banner. So.
Yeah, just as an example, like the screen that we're looking at here, Anna Marie is someone who's filled out your Welcome Week survey. And you're getting to see kind of the feed of who she is right now. So you get to see her survey answer. As an admin in the community, in the movement, there's some other things that you'll get to see in this feed, like Alex assigned, Anna Marie was assigned to Leah Brooks. Leah Brooks changed the status to attempted contact. We're not showing all those things to the whole movement, but to the admins, which could be staff, could be student leaders. And we're trying to contextualize the information, who actually cares about this, rather than make the whole feed really cluttered with stuff. So just an involved student that has the user permission, they would come in, see Anna Marie, see her survey, and they'd be asking the question, is Anna Marie somebody that God wants me to follow up with? Whereas for you as that leader, that team leader, you're wanting to see, is anybody doing anything with Anna Marie? If not, I can take Anna Marie, or I can encourage somebody else to take her. I do want to point out here at this point, one of the things that we know and we're working towards is the ability, let's say Abigail, you're on the call. Abigail looks at Anna Marie and says, Anna Marie is perfect for Susie to follow up with. And from the mobile app to assign Anna Marie to Susie, I want to say, full disclosure, these first couple of weeks that won't be there. We know it's something that is important, very important for some types of people, especially large movement leaders like yourself, Abigail. So we're working towards that. We want to continue to make it simple and clean and understandable for everybody. which is why it's taking a little bit longer, but it is something on our radar. Another comment, this is great. I think regarding the survey feature, we collect 1,000+ students at the beginning of the year, but we never have all of them get involved. And that's totally right, that these are 1,000 people at some point in their spiritual journey. How do you quickly find out the 300 who are really interested in taking that phone call from you, having that cup of coffee, coming to that event? It's one of the things that we want to try to make simpler and streamline. One of the ideas that we're talking about with campus leadership is to actually come up with some national surveys where you can do some more powerful filtering automatically, so that if you were to use the national survey and you came into the app, we could almost auto assign based upon their part in the scale of belief. That's stuff that's coming because of the work we've done over the past couple of months and years. But our desire isn't to make things easier or simpler. Our desire is to get people connected on spiritual journeys and really moving, taking those faithful steps with them. Last question. So if you have any more questions, go ahead and put it in. How can we be a good ambassador for this product? Thank you so much for that question. MissionHub has had a very interesting journey in its life and in its relationship with the campus ministry. I think it first started in 2011, 2012. I found out doing some research on the product when I started taking leadership over it that it was released to everybody as a prototype. So it really was never fully like baked from the beginning, and its uptake was so fast it outgrew its capacity, and there were some bumps there. There was a point where the campus ministry was mandating use of MissionHub, and we know in our culture, it's like saying don't sin, and you like immediately want to go break the law, right? It's like mandate to use this. I'm not going to use that. So good intention, but then the next year was like don't use it, but use it if you want to. And that's really where we're at as a product in our relationship with campus and with Crew, with InterVarsity, with Power to Change, with churches, with small groups, with just individuals following Jesus in their place. It's really around how does this serve you and can this serve you? And so, Mike, as you ask, how to be a good ambassador for the product, I think it's really speaking that core message of taking steps of faith with those that God has put around you. Sometimes you're acting as a missionary going to the far. Sometimes you're actually just acting as a real neighbor going next door. And I'll confess, as a staff member, I've been more active as the missionary going to further places than I've been active like with my next door. And that's something that MissionHub, as I've used MissionHub, it's been a huge conviction to me, because I'm staring at the app and it's like, who? It's asking me who. And I'm like, why not that guy next door? Why not that guy next door? Why not that guy across the street? I think his name is TC. Maybe it's CJ. I don't know. Like, it's kind of like Joe. And it's been really provocative to me to say, if I'm following Jesus, am I following Jesus everywhere? And am I letting myself be available for him to use me anywhere? And I think that's the conversation we're really wanting to have. We don't want to be staff that are missing God close because we're going far. We also don't want to raise up disciples to train them, to take them as insiders and to train them to become outsiders, and then send them out with this experience of being outsiders into a post-collegiate career where they're going to have to represent Jesus as insiders. And I got to eavesdrop on a conversation between campus and city where they were really discussing that, like, how are our disciples that we're sending out from our movements doing when they go out into the world? And as happens through our trajectory of life, there's ups and downs and there's realities. And that's how do we grow disciples that can go with their generation for the rest of their life, being intentional, taking steps of faith, is really, I think, the desire of all of us. Got another one. Thank you. Keep them coming. We got a few more minutes. Just to clarify, you've explained a lot of new features for the app. Yes. I'll just say the ones that were in the blue background existed over the past year and a half, but they weren't as familiar to a lot of users that were predominantly using the web. So it does feel new. It does feel like we're introducing for the first time. They look wonderful and I'm excited. Thank you. That's great. I'm sure Eric, our designer, is super excited about that.
Yay.
I don't see them in my app tonight. You said that these features in the app will be introduced in August. Starting back with my team, second week of August, I want to introduce it appropriately. Thank you for that. We are working really, really hard And I'm going to transition to introduce you to one of our coders and one of our lead designers. They're working very hard to continue to get things tight, get things right. The communities feature will launch. It's a new feature, so every time you launch a new feature, there's always going to be some nicks and bruises and some things that break. We know that's just technology, but we're committed to making it stable, scalable, and continue to make it better. So we really are targeting that first week of August to unlock it and have it there. And basically, if you're a part of any crew or Power to Change, Bridges, Athletes in Action kind of movement, that's automatically going to be unlocked on your mobile app, and we'll let people know that that's available.
That's for you, Daniel.
So Daniel, let's transition to you. Can a Jets fan really write quality code? That's one of the questions from our viewers tonight. First answer that, and then we'll ask you another. No comment. So I guess no.
You know, I've just being a Jets fan, I've just learned to trust God in hard times, and somehow that transfers to coding well. So
Daniel, the question for you is, as you get into the code every single day, like, what is your vision for the people who actually end up using what you're making? What do you hope? What do you pray for them?
Yeah, I mean, I really like MissionHub because I think a lot of people, especially people who have never been involved in campus ministry, might not know how to reach out to the people around them, even though they want to. And so, yeah, that just really excites me that we're like, not only that we're helping other crew staff, but that we're building tools for, you know, people who are Christians but aren't working in full-time ministry. Because that's something I've experienced in my own life, just sometimes being unsure about the best ways to reach out to my friends and family, and MissionHub has helped me just to see small, simple ways to be intentional to try and build the relationships and share Christ.
Thanks for that. I really appreciate your diligence in the code, and it's amazing the amount of work that it takes to pull something off like this. So it's exciting to see you following Jesus and using those skills and talents in this way. I also want to introduce David Sudarma, who, digging into the history of MissionHub, he was actually one of the early coders on the prototype, but God's brought him back around to crew, having some major influence in terms of helping us think about and being courageous to actually go after what God's put on our heart. But David, you use MissionHub personally. How are you seeing it kind of in your own life? And then what's your dream for what this could be?
Yeah, that is definitely, for me, that's a softball question, because I love using MissionHub, but kind of an interesting user. But a little bit about my context. So I live in a suburban neighborhood here in Orlando, not too unsimilar to many other staff people here in Orlando, but previously come from a context of being in suburbia in California. And what's been really neat is to see how MissionHub fits naturally into things that my wife and I care deeply about, and now as a byproduct our children, which is essentially neighboring. And we know that at the stage of life that we are with 3 little kids, we're kind of confined to where we are, right? We don't get out a lot. We stay in our neighborhood primarily. And so I think that's been really exciting for us to then start seeing our neighbor across the street, our neighbor next door, and just the different people around us as our mission field. And we've adopted that. Our children have begun adopting that. And so when we look and we see our next door neighbor pulling into the driveway, we remember to pray for him and to invite him and her, their family, over for dinner. And we've started to do that. Things that kind of seem countercultural. Usually you just kind of wave hello, or maybe see each other when you're mowing the lawn or what have you. But now we're actually seeing them in our lives, and it's starting to make those connections across our neighborhood, not just in our immediate neighbors, but now 8, 9, 10 houses down. And so seeing that is really helpful. And then also, I think as we saw a little bit earlier, for me, it's actually just looking through and having the names of people that I'm being intentional with, praying for daily, praying for as notifications come up and different things. So I've seen that not just as a tool for myself, but also being able to give that now to friends who aren't anywhere close to being in, full-time ministry or anything of the sort, but saying, all the normal things that people face. I'm terrified to say anything about Jesus. I'm terrified to do, these things that are very evangelistic. And now being able to say, oh, wow, you know what? Bringing my neighbor cookies mattered. Going to coffee with my friend actually mattered. It's an opportunity and a way to express the love of Jesus. So that gets me really excited. It keeps it at the forefront. Things that I value, loving my neighbors, being intentional, helps me to keep my values prioritized, which is significant.
Let me ask you one of the questions from the chat. Can we share this app with our ministry partners to use for neighboring? For instance, if I send it to someone or wrote a newsletter on it, would it be available for them to download?
And the answer is yes. You can definitely share it with your friends. You can share it with your family. You can share it with your pastor. You can share it with whoever. They can use it personally by beginning to add the people in their life. I actually have my children in the app. It's not just people that I'm trying to reach kind of, outside of my home, but it reminds me to pray diligently for my children. It reminds me to spend quality time with my children. They are part of my mission field. And so I have a lot of people that are very, very close to me, including family, inside of MissionHub. So yes, a great tool. It's available to everybody.
And they can email apps@cru.org
Or support.
or support at MissionHub. Sorry, if they need help with the app.
I wanted to just follow up on what David was saying about how anyone can download it. The difference that people who are not connected to a ministry will see is they won't see the interactions or the surveys or the movements listed out, but everything else is available. So the stages, the steps, the impact is still available for them. So in case you do share it with someone and they ask, like, well, mine looks different from yours, that would be the one main thing. But everything else, reminders, focus your week, that's available right now and they can download it.
Well, we're at time. I think just to share a little bit about where we're going, one of the things that you heard Eric talk about was the communities feature, which is kind of us together on mission. When you're a part of a crew or Power to Change movement, that makes sense to us. It's kind of normal. To be a part of that means you're on mission together. And we're just trying to support that with the app. But there's lots of people who are following Jesus, like Daniel said, like, I really want to know how to start. They may have one or two people that they can look to that can model that for them. We're actually testing communities with Crew so that we can open up communities to any follower of Jesus to use the app. And so imagine a Bible study, imagine a church, imagine you and your Bible study within Crew, creating your own community and seeing that Celebrate feed fill up in terms of as you just go forth in faith. And so one of the things that we're committed to, and if you're at Crew 17, the conference, the theme was with. I actually have the sticker on my laptop to remind me of what we really, really want is not just to do these things ourselves, but to take what God has given us and be open-handed and give it away to any follower of Jesus who wants to participate in the Great Commission. And so we're committed to making MissionHub open and accessible and free and available to anybody. And in the coming year, we really want to aggressively start getting it translated and localized and open to the world. One of our team's other products is called God Tools. And over the last couple of years, we've been intentional. The product leader, Ann Cockram, there has it now in like 71 languages. And it's every 3 months, we're seeing 80,000 people have 150,000 spiritual conversations. And it's faithfulness to continue to work on this thing and then just open it up and make it available. For too long, we've kept mission to ourselves, and specifically MissionHub was just Crews. You had to know an insider. And so Abigail, we've totally opened it up. It's totally available, and would love for you to share it. And that's a way of you continuing to turn them into making disciples and giving them value rather than just having them kind of support you. So great idea. Love it. We're at our time. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. This webinar is being recorded. If the technology works for the webinar service, we will post that on our MissionHub website and get you a link. There's also going to be a survey that pops up right as we end. It also will be included in an email that'll be sent to you tomorrow. we'd love for you to take. It's just 5 questions. We'd love to hear some more. One, in terms of what you're thinking about what you saw, but also if you're planning to use it as a movement, what can we do to help you, help your students and help your team get ready so it can be as fruitful as possible. Let me just pray, Father. Let me just pray real fast. Father, thank you so much for this. Thank you for each person on the call and those they represent, those that will watch the recording. We want to say this is all for your glory. This is not to represent any product. This is not to represent any ministry. We offer all of this humbly, open-handed as an act of worship, and we ask that you would take it and use it, Father. We know that changing hearts and lives is not our work, but participating with you in faith is, and we want to do that. And we ask that you would bear fruit, that remains. And for these staff, as they're beginning to prepare themselves to lead whole groups of people on mission into some really interesting places, ask that you would fill them with your Spirit, give them deep soul and body rest so that they're ready. So that when they step on campus in the next couple of days, they do so with joy and faith and hope and looking at what you can do. And we just look forward to seeing what that is and celebrating that together. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you, everybody. We'll be doing this regularly. You'll hear from us soon.
Good night.
And now watch me awkwardly try to end the time.